Hello, friends. Hello, hello. Happy greetings to you wherever you are. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Jen from Personal Power Wellness Coaching, and I'm really glad that I can come to you live right now and share this message of insight and personal experience from having gone through difficulties and hardships related to self-sabotage. And I think that it's something that almost everyone can relate to, because if there's something you've wanted and you've had to work for it, or you've had to take steps that are that seem difficult or that are opposite to your nature or what you would easily more conveniently do, then I know you understand what I mean, where you've had to struggle and really have discipline or work hard or try to do your best in order to achieve whatever goal you have. And I think that one of the most relatable topics in the world is about diet and food and nutrition, and it's related to health, because our food is the source of our health to a huge degree, because it's where we get our energy, our nutrients, our vitamins, and fiber, and the basic bulk of our diet, and what makes our body run. So essentially, I wanted to just share when you might reach that point where you've been succeeding on your plan, whether it's about going for a walk every morning, or working on a project for work or for school, or even just anything related to your own personal goals, self-development. When you reach that point where you've had some degree of success and you're seeing good outcomes and good feedback, and then the thought comes into your mind that it seems like I'm doing pretty good here, so maybe I can just ease back and lay off a little bit on my efforts and not be as strict, or not do as much, or let go a little bit more, right? A lot of people use that terminology, letting go of the reins, or stopping so much controlling. And so why do we do that? And I think that's a really huge question, of course, which I'm not seeking to answer in this video. I'm sure that there are millions of videos and researchers out there who have covered it and written books about it. But I think that the most important takeaway from my insight is that it happens, and it's important to be aware of that. And it starts with acknowledging that it happens, and that you might have this tendency to self-sabotage when things get good, when you see that things start to improve and that you're getting what you want. And when I've listened to other researchers, psychologists, people who have studied the field or who have shared their own insights and wisdom, they typically they say it comes from your own inner rooted sense of unworthiness, and that you don't deserve the thing that you want. That's one perspective. Another perspective is that besides the unworthiness is that I lost it, but it's basically that one comes through first, is that you're not worthy of what you want. And so you might as well just give up and start like self-sabotaging. It's a small voice that happens inside the head. Another thing that helps, another aspect of self-sabotage can come from maybe you're not fulfilling your goal as fast as you want. You see some results and some returns, but it really takes a lot more time, and it's a slower process, and you get frustrated. And then you think, well, it's just impossible for me. I don't deserve this. And it's just not who I am. This is not me. Like, I wasn't born to have this, even if I want it. Other people seem to get it easier, but it's just not it's not easy for me, and it's not working out for me. It's not for me. And that's not true, actually, because if you look at life and reality and the world around you, you can see that there are billions of people, millions of examples around you of people who have done the complete opposite or totally different ways from where they came from their background. We see people who go to college and they go to the best universities in the world, having come from parents who didn't go to any university, who barely finished high school, and who were immigrants. And that's my own example. Also, you see people who totally change their diet, and it's radically different from what their ancestors did, right? Like if you have like a vegan, that a person becomes a vegan coming from a family of all omnivores, that's an example as well. We see people who lose weight, right? They radically transform. There are hundreds of stories online you can easily find. Weight loss transformation. They used to be obese, and then they set their mind and their heart to it, and they lost the weight. They changed their habits. They changed their lifestyle. They started eating differently. They started exercising more. So they took action. And so it can be different for you. It may just take more time. It may just take more dedication and persistence, perseverance, and dedication. More time. And we need to be patient and take your time with your own body and your own process. And stop listening or looking so much and comparing yourself to others who seem to have it easier, who you don't even know, but you make assumptions about, oh, it's easy for them, or they've always been that way, or they have more advantages than I do. But we don't know them unless you know them personally and you've lived with them, or you've been at their side and you know them personally as a friend and someone that you've lived with, because that's really the only way we can truly get to know someone. Then you have no idea what they've had to face behind the scenes, what fears they have had to confront, the steps they took. Maybe it wasn't all rosy for them either. It was not smooth sailing, and it could have taken years actually. So just bear that in mind as you go through your own process. And if you encounter self-sabotaging, just knowing that you might have this tendency and that it pops up and it crops up time and time again. And so maybe if it happens too much, and as you get older and wiser and more experienced with yourself, is to ask yourself, why do I do that? Why does that happen? And really taking a moment to write it down and just have a dialogue with that voice, that voice that speaks to you in your head that makes you act. And it's a very subtle and still but clear, steely voice, and it speaks. It can say, oh, we're doing great, so it's okay to give in, or it's okay to whatever terminology you use for that particular context. And just have a dialogue, like back and forth, A voice and B voice, and say, well, why do you want to give in a little bit? Why do you want to take it easy? Have things been so hard? Is it really tough? And then you have your own dialogue. Also, ask yourself or reflect on whether what you're doing is sustainable as a lifestyle for the long term. Because if you feel that it's really out of reach for you what you're doing now, but you can extend yourself for a certain time frame, but then you need to go back to your old ways, then you're not going to really do anything significant that you appreciate, because you'll just go back to what you used to do and who you used to be, or to the status quo before. So really we have to ask ourselves is whether this is sustainable. Can I actually do this realistically in the long term? And if it is, then it's not as hard as I'm thinking. But importantly is to really apply that on yourself, is to really ask whether it's appropriate and applicable to your lifestyle, not to what Johnny or Susie does on YouTube or down in your office or down the block in your building, but what is true for you in your lifestyle. Can you do this for the long term? Or is it something really unsustainable, maybe for 1 month or a 3-month, radical thing? Because what you do to get you to the final success and goal achieved, you will have to keep it up. Probably keep it up, if not to 100% degree, you'll have to keep it up between 95% to 100%. And that's really all the wiggle room you have. Otherwise, you will easily revert to your old habits and your old patterns because it's already ingrained in you. It's already what you've done for many years before that, and it's also what your natural human primal instinctual brain wants to do, which is to conserve energy. And it conserves energy, and it seeks pleasure, and it seeks safety. And pleasure seeking and energy consumption. So what does that mean? Feeling good and moving less, or eating more foods that are convenient and easy to buy, getting takeout, delivery of pre-cooked meals, whatever that means for you. I think you all know in modern society now, we all know what that looks like, right? That highly palatable foods. They're a bar, they're in a package, they're crunchy, salty, sweet, a mix of all of that. They're easy to buy, easy to order. Sometimes they're on sale. They sell them in big bulks too, and you can't just have one, right? Or you need to eat the whole pint, or you just measure a little bit more than the tablespoon is actually. So these are just examples, and I've encountered them too personally. So it's sort of like fighting my own natural tendencies. So as you go forward and you experience self-sabotage, 1 second. Let's take a moment to hydrate. I have this is my favorite coconut water actually. It's raw coconut water, organic, from Organic Source Company. It's currently the only one that I like to buy, if I buy it, unless I buy the original full coconut, and then I ask them to chop it open at the market, at the store, and then I just drink it with a straw, which is a really nice experience. So, and it's also a great source of electrolytes and hydration. No chemicals, no fillers, no additives. Just doing our best, really. But anyhow, to continue and to gradually finish off in this particular episode, I think that one of the really fundamental aspects in this whole journey you're going through, and you're moving forward, you're achieving, and then you go down. So psychologists also show this as a graph, as a curve, right? It's a curve. You go up and then you go down. You must take 3 steps forward and take 2 steps back, or 3 steps forward and then 1 step back. You feel stronger, and then 3 steps forward and then 3 steps back, right? So we lose count. Where am I really? How far ahead am I? So as you go forward in your life and in your mindset, the first most important step that I think is really to get clear with ourself and to acknowledge, call it out, call out the tendency, call out the thoughts that say, oh, now you have to punish yourself. You don't deserve to eat. You need to restrict yourself. You need to deprive yourself. And those are thoughts that I used to have more years ago in college, when I did face, I did have an eating disorder, and I had to overcome that, and I did change my mindset. But there are certain things that seem to be ingrained in our neural pathways, and they can be there forever, and they get reactivated if we then reignite those particular neural pathways of thinking and trains of thoughts. So we have to learn to be aware, acknowledge it, call it out, write it down. Just know, hey Joe, listen, let's get real. Be real with yourself. You have this tendency. It's not good or bad. It's a tendency. We have so many tendencies. You can tend to be generous, or you can tend to be stingy. You can tend to be open-minded, or you can tend to be someone conservative and staunch in your views, right? We have tendencies, and Gretchen Rubin talks about this as well. She is a lawyer who then sort of became a psychologist, but I'm not sure if she's officially medically certified as a psychologist. But anyways, she has her book, The 4 Tendencies, and Creating Happy Habits. And so as you have this tendency, it's not a label of being wrong with who you are, but just know, hey, this is possibly going to happen. And looking back at my history, it's probably going to happen again. So what can I do now? Like, what did I take away from my past experiences? What did not work? Because if it's the same thing each time, then you're going to have to start making some wiggle room in your plan and your approach, whatever that is, to incorporate aspects of that given behavior. And if you cannot do that, you don't want to do that, you think that it's really actually what you want to let go of completely and change and never do or have or be again, then you might need some help. You might need some external intervention, like a therapist or a coach, or maybe you need to, announce what you want in public. And some people say that works, where you announce it to Facebook and YouTube, and then you want to be held accountable. So basically having a way to hold yourself accountable to something or someone else that matters to you. And then from there, a third thing that I would suggest is to clean up your environment and prepare yourself for success. So just basically set the foundation and set the fundamentals that will enable you, that will give you the tools to be prepared and able to act on what you think or say you want. And that includes buying the necessary tools, getting the right food in your house, and throwing out everything else that is not on your game plan. Yeah, throwing it out. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't serve you, then it needs to be out of your house and in the garbage. If it's in your house, it's in your mouth eventually, because you might have emotional attachment to it, historical attachment to it, it's habitual, it's normalized, and it's in your home. And your home is typically the safest safe space that you inhabit throughout your day. And so that is really key, and I learned that from Chef AJ and psychologist Dr. Doug Lyle, and it's a basic human truism. If it's in your house, it's in your mouth. But if it's not, you have to go through more efforts and try harder to obtain that item, whatever it is. You have to go out, you have to be inconvenienced, you have to make the extra purchase, etc. So keep the things that you need to arm yourself, to tool yourself up, right? If you're going to build a house or, make a deck or a porch, you need the proper tools. Any technician, any electrician, any handy person, you tell him, hey, I need you to build this part of my house. They're going to maybe assemble a whole team, or they'll need at least one or two assistants, and they'll ask you, well, what do I have to work with, right? Like they need, or either you give them the screwdriver and the hammer and the nails, or they bring their own team with all the tools. So either pack your tools, keep your tools with you, be prepared to succeed. If you're a yoga teacher and you're teaching your classes and you want to be a great yoga teacher, you need to have your mat, you need to have your towel, you need to have your props, right? You need the blocks, you need the straps, you need maybe some other things, like if you do essential oils at the end during Shavasana, you want to have a special oil blend, or you might want to have your hand disinfectant, whatever it is, right? You need to be prepared to teach your class. Similarly, you need to be prepared to fulfill your goals. So ask yourself, am I really prepared? Do I have what I need? If I need to go for a walk every day and I want to walk 30 minutes, do I have the proper shoes? Do I have maybe a hat or a cap? Do I have an alarm that I can set to wake me up so that I do it and have the time for it, right? So these are just keys to make sure that we're able to move forward with our intentions, our heart's desires, and really assisting yourself, supporting yourself. Even if that self-sabotage will happen again, and you could be the smartest person, but maybe you self-sabotage, and it is what it is. If you know it's going to happen, then just either make peace with it and be okay, but still keep your course, right? Keep moving forward. And then you can see some positive changes down the line. Who knows? Maybe one day you won't even want to do the things that used to be labeled self-sabotaging. right? It'll just sort of, you'll just sort of grow out of it. And that often happens too. We grow out of these things. Similarly, we grow out of some thoughts. So if you have thoughts of punishing yourself by not eating well, or confused, you don't know what to eat, or you want to deprive yourself and you think that's the way, just know that when you deprive, you eventually binge. It's a cycle. It's like a rubber band that you stretch and stretch and stretch by depriving, but then eventually that band is going to burst. Either it comes back to where it was originally, like eating what it was and maybe more, or it'll pop and it'll just be unusable and you'll go to another extreme, which is characterized by binging. So that is what can happen. And just know that whatever you're thinking, your negative thoughts about wanting to punish yourself, does that really help? Well, I don't think so. And I think if you're honest with yourself, does punishing yourself lead to more of where you want to go? Or is it just a immediate response reaction that comes from some animalistic thought? It's like a wild beast that is actually maybe the ego or just basic negativity and some self-hatred or some self-doubt. Well, we don't want to take that into ourselves any further in our life, right? Even if we have some of that happening in the mind, it doesn't mean you want to stick with that. You can let that go too. And just being aware. Step number one, my friends, be aware and acknowledge. Acknowledge the situation. Call it out. Name it. Name it. And you don't have to claim it because it's not something in particular that you want to say, hey, this is me. Right? But hey, if it works, name it and claim it. Hey, this is my tendency. I tend to self-sabotage. And then what can I do about it? Am I going to make peace with it, or am I really going to continue my course and take some new action, do something different, take a new course of action, changing something so that everything is not the same repetitive cycle of, okay, doing it again, okay, let's go back again, and then again you reach point B, and then you reach point C, and then again you go back to point A, back to square one. Whereas when you do something different, you get a different outcome. And when you get a different outcome, you'll have different feedback and different information. And then you can use that information as data for your own self to planify and guide your next actions, to know what works for you, what does not work for you anymore. Maybe it did before, but not anymore. Maybe it did 10 years ago, but hey, 20 years later, you just can't drink as much as you used to, or you can't really smoke as much as you used to. You don't party, etc. You see, it's an example. Similarly, you will outlive your phases. So reflect on, what do I want to change? What do I want to carry forward? And then do I need external help? And then do I have the tools I need to take action and do what I have to do? Do I know the right people? Is my resume ready? Am I reaching out? Is my phone charged? Do you have the props? Do you have your portfolio? Do you have your briefcase with your documents? Right? If you're a businessman or a businesswoman, do you have your suit, your tie, or a handkerchief if you do the handkerchief? Right? Being prepared. We do have to be prepared, and getting the junk out of our house. And when I say house, it's a metaphor for our brain. Our house is symbolized and it's represented by your brain. So get the junk out of the house. We get our junk out of our brain by putting it on paper, by claiming it, naming it, sending it out, and then you can do something different. Just doing something different, okay? Shifting the energy and shifting your physiology. And then even our whole life can change. And you can move forward and let go of that and move into a new phase. So that's it for now. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. Hey Uma, Sending you lots of love and joy, my sister in Queens, New York, South Ozone Park, or maybe elsewhere. Sending you lots of love to everyone watching, to Beverly, to Dino, to all our friends around the world. Lots of joy, love, and light. And keep shining, keep well, and stay hydrated. That's it. Let's stay hydrated and sleep well. And love. Love, love, love. So spend some time today with the things and the people you love. Thank you again, friends, from Jennifer at Personal Power Wellness Coaching, and I'll see you soon. Namaste.